I speak to you in the name of the Creator, Redeemer, and life-giving Spirit. Amen. Yesterday, the family of our friend Marion Singer celebrated Marion's life with a lovely party. Marion, who was 98 years young, always said that the key to a long life is volunteering. She faithfully volunteered for the All Saints Food Pantry and for Kaiser Hospital until shortly before she died. She was an amazing woman, and she fit in right here at All Saints. Volunteer service is a gift to the world. No matter where volunteers stand, whether it's in the doorway to the food pantry or in a hospital corridor, they bring God's compassion and love into the world in a tangible way. This morning, I want to invite you to stand with me at the edge of two worlds, the pews and the street. It's at that holy threshold where worship meets the wounds of the world. The readings today from Sirach and from Luke speak right into that space. They remind us that God listens to the cry of the poor, and that humility is not weakness. It is the doorway to grace. Today's reading from the Gospel of Luke is a mirror, not a window through which we look at others, but a mirror through which we see ourselves. Two people go up to pray. Both are sincere. Both believe they're seeking God, but only one is changed. The Pharisee stands tall. He thanks God for his virtues. He fasts. He tithes. He does all the right things. And there's the tax collector, broken, uncertain, standing at a distance, who simply says, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. And Jesus says, that's the one who goes home justified, the one who made right with God. Sirach tells us why. The Lord is the judge who shows no partiality. God listens to the cry of the oppressed and will not ignore the prayer of the orphan or the widow. This is a God who hears what the world does not, a God who pays attention to the voices that power overlooks. Walter Brueggemann called that the prophetic imagination, the ability to see the world as God dreams it, not as the world defends it. Sirach says, if God listens like that, then we who claim to follow God must learn to listen like that too. The Pharisee in the gospel story isn't evil. He's just trapped. Standing by himself, he thanks God that he is not like other people, thieves, rogues, adulterers, or the tax collector. He boasts of his religious practices, fasting twice a week, giving away 10% of his income. He's trapped in comparison, trapped in performance, trapped in the illusion that goodness is something that we achieve, not something we receive. Marcus Borg wrote that Jesus' great struggle was not against sinners, but against religious smugness, the belief that we can control grace. The Pharisee's faith had become a performance. His prayer was not to be transformed, but to be admired. And how tempting that is when our politics become performative, when our compassion becomes selective, when our religion becomes self-congratulations. Jesus says, humility is the cure, because humility reopens the heart. Humility doesn't mean weakness. It means freedom. Howard Thurman wrote that humility is the acceptance of self without arrogance and without shame. It's not about being small, it's about being real. The tax collector knew the truth about himself. And that truth, as painful as it was, became the doorway to grace. Real humility frees us to love without fear, to act without the need for applause, to engage the world without cynicism. We live in a noisy, polarized time. Everyone has a platform. Few have the patience to listen. But Sirach reminds us that God listens deeply. God pays attention to the overlooked, the unheard, the weary. What if all Christians became known for that kind of listening? Not for our opinions, but for our compassion. Listening doesn't mean withdrawing from the world. It means engaging it with gentleness, with kindness, and courage. That's how healing begins. In his letter to Timothy, Paul writes from prison, "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith." He doesn't say that he's won. He says that he kept going. Catherine Jefferson, the first woman to ever lead a major Christian denomination as the presiding bishop of our church, once said that the vitality of the church is measured not by its size, but by its faithfulness. Faithfulness means showing up, even when the headlines are grim, when divisions deepen, when hope feels small. It means keeping the race going for the sake of love. It means engaging in the world, no matter how old or young we are. In the book of Sirach, wisdom is portrayed as a woman, strong, radiant, enduring. And that wisdom has taken form in our own age through women who've helped the church remember its soul. Bishop Barbara Harris, the first African-American woman to be ordained a bishop in the Episcopal Church, said, "We are not called to be safe, we are called to be faithful." Dean Kelly Brown Douglas, a trailblazing Black woman theologian and Episcopal leader, teaches that theology must have its feet in the streets because the gospel always belongs in public life. And Bishop Shorey, who has often spoken about the interconnections of all creation, reminds us that to love God is to also care for the earth God made. Their lives remind us that humility and courage are not opposites, they are partners. The church at its best has been described by some authors as not a museum of saints, but a school for humility. That's a phrase that goes back to St. Augustine, modernized by such people as Pope Francis and Dear Abby. We don't come here to prove our holiness. We come here to practice it. We confess together, not to feel guilty, but to remember that we belong to each other. It would be easy to give up on the world right now, to think that things are too broken, too divided, too lost. But the gospel calls us to another way. Brueggemann calls it the prophetic imagination. Thurman calls it the growing edge. Both point to the same truth, that God's Spirit is still at work, quietly, stubbornly, in places of pain, protest, and promise. We are not asked to fix the world. We are asked to love it, to engage it, to walk humbly in it, and to trust that grace is stronger than fear. Paul said, "The Lord stood by me and gave me strength." That's our hope too. Howard Thurman called hope a memory of the future, a vision of what God will make, already flickering inside us now. Every act of kindness, every moment of patient listening, every step towards reconciliation is hope made visible. And in the age of anger, hope becomes an act of holy resistance. So where do we find ourselves today? Maybe we're the Pharisees, defending our goodness. Maybe sometimes we're the tax collector, aching for mercy. Either way, God is waiting not to condemn, but to transform. And when we leave this place today, God sends us out into a world that still needs mercy, still needs listening, still needs love. The world doesn't need a church that hides. It needs a church that listens, that learns, that loves, even when it's costly. Sirach reminds us the prayer of the humble pierces the clouds. So may our prayers today pierce the clouds of indifference. May our lives become the listening heart of God. And may we go into the world not as judges, but as witnesses to mercy, hope, and the quiet strength of humility. Amen.